Dina, what is in your cup this morning?
Ooh,
What are you
listen,
drinking?
can y'all hear it? I don't know if you can hear what I'm drinking this morning, Bob. I am having an iced matcha.
Oh, that's so funny because
Is
I
it?
am having a hot matcha.
Ooh, you probably can't shake your cup then, and for
I'm
us
not
to
going to shake my
hear.
cup. No,
Yeah.
no, 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 definitely not. Well, that's interesting because you are normally a lover of of coffee. Why matcha this morning?
Well, I'll be totally honest. I had some coffee to get me
Hmm.
going. This was like four and a
Oh,
half hours ago, a cup of
yeah.
coffee. And then I was just feeling like a little iced beverage, and I didn't feel like putting ice in my hot coffee. So I
Gotcha.
suppose the other reason, though, Bob, is I tend to, because we are dietitians, I do tend to think about what is in the
Mm,
matcha that today
yes.
I really just want to notch it up a little bit.
And then that's a good point because there are some great benefits to coffee beans, to matcha, yerba mate, certain teas. And that's where we're going with this episode, everyone, is we're going to highlight green tea, specifically green tea, using green tea for weight loss. But let's kind of bring it back. Like, so we both kind of experiment with our hot and cold drinks in the morning and we cycle through these different things. And I like what you just said, Dee, because you said and it's something that I tell athletes all the time, like think about what food or beverage does for your body, for your brain. Like what beneficial compounds can it have in it? And maybe you don't know them, or maybe you've heard of them, or maybe you're just listening to us because you want to know. And let's open this up a little bit because there was I think both of us engage in green tea from time to time, right?
Mhm.
And it's a wonderful beverage. It has a lot less caffeine than something like a coffee. So I do feel like it's a good segue for those who are either caffeine sensitive or they just want to break or they don't want to do a lot of caffeine. So green tea is lovely. You can do so many different things with it. But there's a new study that actually came out that's, we read over and we wanted to provide our feedback specifically to the effects of using green tea in exercise training for weight loss. So, Dina, why don't we set this up? This is a 2024 article, so it's brand new. We'll put this reference in the show notes. But so, what is about green tea? Like, what's going on with green tea? Like health wise, like what are some of the things that we think about when we look at green tea for health benefits?
I think one of the biggies is the type of compound that is found in green tea. So catechins is how it's kind
Mhm.
of generally termed. And within that, we have different kinds of catechins. One of the most, I guess, common that some people might have heard of, I'll just abbreviate because I don't have the full, unless you do, Bob,
If you
EC.
can, if you can say the name of this, I'll be
I
so
know.
impressed.
Well, I don't have it in front of me at this
Okay.
moment. ECGC. What is it?
EGCG.
Yeah. There's a set of these catechins
Yeah.
though, that have different kinds of properties or effects in the body. So when it comes to weight loss, what's been purported or suggested is that these catechins and that type of compound that is found within green tea can increase our fat burning or
Mm,
increase our energy burn, increase lipolysis, which is that
mhm.
process whereby we break down fats for energy.
This
Yeah.
has been part of a lot of fat burners in the past, right? These supplements that are like promoting this unreal fat loss or weight loss or whatever. And that's yeah, it's been around for some time, right?
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I don't, 40, 50 years or
at
something like
least,
that.
at least.
Yeah.
Can I take a stab at actually telling you what this EGCG actually is? Because
Yes.
I am now looking at the words so I can probably pronounce them. It's epigallocatechin gallate.
Thank
That
you.
is why we shorten it to EGCG because it is a mouthful, right? But
It
anyway,
is.
I digress. Go ahead. Continue with the wonderful health benefits of these catechins.
I mean, there's other kind of similar benefits when it comes to like lowering inflammation or
Hmm.
providing some mitigation of or attenuation of your oxidative stress or things like this that may indirectly then support body fat reduction or shedding fat, body fat.
Yeah.
So that's kind of generally what we look for. But I think the primary, like why it's in so many of those fat burning supplements is like it burns calories.
Yeah.
But the question here is the degree to which it's going to burn those calories.
Yeah. So everyone with a cup of green tea in their hand are looking at themselves like, oh my gosh, am I going to burn more fat right now by drinking this? Well, let's not answer that question yet, right, Dee? Let's go into a
Yeah.
little bit of this research study. So the title was, Does green tea catechin enhance weight loss effect of exercise training in overweight and obese individuals? A systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized trials. And this is from the Journal of an International Society of Sport Nutrition, which just came out this year in 2024. So that kind of sets us off. Let's take us into the meta-analysis, Dee. Let's share some highlights here for our listeners.
Yeah, well, I think just setting the stage a little more, maybe this is what you're asking, Bob, because they basically sourced, for anyone who's not familiar with the term systematic review meta-analysis, the short story is they use very strict criteria to go through the research databases and find research studies that match certain criteria to answer the question that the title is, suggesting, like does green tea catechin promote weight loss in overweight, over obese individuals? And so through their procedure and process, they identified, over 1,000 papers, but they had to go through and again just fine tune for the criteria and results in the study design that met the criteria to better answer the question. And so in the end, just knowing they ended up with 10, I think 10 or so research
Mhm,
studies to look at that met their criteria, looking at exercise intervention with green tea or without, like a
mhm,
placebo. And so it was including, both men and women.
mhm,
Again, the category was looking at a body mass index of over 24.9. So anyone in that BMI category would be, I guess, categorized then as overweight or obese. The age range was pretty big, Bob, like 21 to 70.
mhm.
The thing here is like, what about this green tea thing? How do you know what dose and what,
Yeah, that's what I was
like
going to
that
ask,
part?
right? Yeah, I mean, is
And
the cup enough? Do they have to take a supplement? I mean,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is just kind of going through some of the general, because we'll put the links to everything for people who want to dive into this. But that green tea, I guess, dose of the catechin was quite a large range, if you ask me.
Mm,
99 milligrams, upwards of about 1,500 milligrams.
wow, that's huge.
It's huge. And they were saying, of those research studies that were included in the analysis, that 500 milligrams was the most common.
And that's interesting, Dee, because I did a little bit of research to because I had the question, well, how much is in just a cup of tea, like a cup of green
Exactly.
tea? And
Exactly.
there's and it depends on the again, it's just like coffee, right? It depends on the type of tea, the brand, their manufacturing process, but there is normally between 50 to 100 milligrams of EGCG. And what
Mhm.
range did you just say? Because that's a lot less than what you just said,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
99
Wow. Okay.
milligrams, upwards of 1,500 milligrams was what was used in these research studies.
So I kind of feel, and we won't get to the conclusions yet, obviously, but I kind of feel if someone's just drinking green tea, I kind of feel that they would have to drink at least 2 to 3 cups to have that effect that you saw in this meta-analysis, right? Because
Yeah.
the low end was at 99 or right around 100 milligrams.
Right. And I think this is just one of those issues. Like the mass media might want to just say, ooh, look at the conclusion and just say, oh, wow, green tea for everybody, right?
Yep,
But this is
yep.
the thing we're kind of getting at too, and we'll get to those results. It's just like, well, what is the most effective dose and to what result will I achieve? But remember,
Yes.
this is also looking at with or without exercise intervention.
Hmm.
And then we're opening the door, Bob, like, well, what kind of exercise and how
Right.
often and how hard and how much? Yeah. So all of those aspects here.
Which
that,
is also relative to that person because, a 7 on a 1 to 10 RPE scale for you is going to be different from me. And you know what I mean? It's just
yeah,
there are a lot of, things to remember that it's not just, oh, this is the protocol. This is exactly it. Like it doesn't work
yeah,
for everybody, obviously.
right. Let's see here, Bob. I mean, should we just kind of summarize the findings and then walk through a couple of the, but remember kind
I
of
think so.
caveats?
I think so, but let's just remember before we start this, it is like you said, this is well on this was done on overweight and obese individuals. You stated the BMI. It is exercise, so it's not just sitting in the morning, enjoying your cup of green tea. Like there was an exercise protocol to this also. So let's keep that in mind as you launch into these results here.
Okay. Yes. And the study durations range from about 1 month or 4 weeks, upwards of about, I think, 3 months or 12
Mm,
weeks. So, I mean, we're
okay.
not talking super, super long interventions for the exercise and
I
green
mean,
tea or without, but
I'll put my physiologist and coach hat on. That's nothing. Like, will you see some fitness changes? Yes, but not
mhm,
significant in that amount of time. So but again, you have to look at the population that they were studying, right? So we're talking
yes.
about overweight and obese versus an athletic population that may need to lose some weight. I feel
Yeah.
like that's a little bit different, right? Because you're looking at athletic versus non-athletic.
And I just looked again, Bob. I was misspoken there. It's upwards of about 24 weeks, but the range
Okay.
or the median
Okay.
was about a 12 weeks. That's where it
Gotcha.
came in. So
Gotcha.
still
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the bottom line here, Bob, is that when they pooled all of the results and did their statistical analysis, the findings then showed I'll read this, that green tea with exercise training
Hmm.
resulted in an effective reduction in weight measurements with a small and consistent effect. But it looks like this effect is probably, less than a couple pounds worth, depending on
That's
which
what
study you looked at.
It's actually what I was going to ask you because we know, like in science, there can be a small effect, but it's a statistical effect, right? In real life, what does that actually mean? Like,
Yeah.
so if it was 2 pounds, I think a lot of people would scoff at that. If they're trying to lose weight, they would literally scoff at 2 pounds because maybe they have to lose 10 or 20 or 30, like who knows, right? And granted, it's on the path to weight loss, but it's still like, wow, if this is only, quote unquote, only providing 2 pounds as the median,
Yeah.
maybe that's not as beneficial. I don't know. I mean, I'll just put it out there, right?
Right. And I think they actually did note that in this paper is that that could be meaningful for someone like, oh, good, a couple pounds, but in the context of, bigger body sizes where depending on goal, like clinically relevant may not meet that criteria.
Right, right.
So something to keep in mind.
I mean, there are some positives here for sure, right?
Hmm.
And that's why I launched into this asking you what are some health benefits of green tea, right? Because there are some pretty good health benefits, irregardless of this weight loss component with exercise, right? So I
Right.
think, we're definitely not like poo-pooing green tea. I mean, we both, I mean, love green tea, but I think in this context, it's like, okay, well, like, as we know, certain people are going to respond differently than others, but green tea is not the magic drink or magic pill or magic whatever, right? But it could be part of a very healthy, kind of longevity nutrition path for everyone, right?
I agree. And the thing that's not, mentioned here, things that we just need to think about is this drink replacing something else,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
And those polyphenols, like that anti-inflammatory benefit, antioxidant type properties, like what are the other systems in the body that may directly or indirectly help overall health or support body composition change? Like that's not quite reflected in these kinds of studies.
right.
Or that just behavior of choosing to drink a green tea instead of the latte from Starbucks with the triple pump of
Exactly.
chocolate, whatever. So
Exactly.
I think those are things to keep in mind. But overall, I mean, the consensus here is that it's not probably going to hurt by any means for weight reduction. It's just, like you said, Bob, not the fat burning supplement. And you don't have to exercise and you don't have
Right.
to, control calories or mind your eating behaviors.
Yeah, I do actually like that they combine this with an exercise protocol because that
Mhm.
to me that's just screaming, the teachings that we often do is like, hey, exercise is a component to weight loss. So I'm really glad that they introduced that as part of this analysis. What I also wanted to touch on, Dee, and please tell me if I'm not correct in this, but was there any mention of the dietary protocols that these people were following during? I don't think there
No, I
was,
mean,
right?
that's a good point. In this meta-analysis, they just reported that the subjects in both of the types of research groups just follow their, whatever their regular
They're
routine
normal.
diet was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they didn't really, for the
Which
most part.
obviously, as we know, if we have a nutrition intervention for weight loss,
Yeah.
there could be different findings, right?
Hmm.
Even within using green tea as a supplement or a
Yeah.
supplemental beverage. So I do feel like I love this study of death because it's bringing highlight to green tea. It's a very great, obviously beverage, and it's a great option to have. But
Yeah.
I just feel like, of course, research is limited and researchers can only do so much with the resources they have, of course. And, God bless them because they're doing some great things, but it's so hard to study everything. And I feel
I
like
know.
once you start to control nutrition, that's a really expensive and a really long study, right?
Yes. I was just going to note one thing there, Bob. When you look in this paper at the breakdown of each of the research papers that were pooled in the
Hmm.
analysis and just like individually, like, ooh, this study number one had 30 subjects, women, 10-week study. I was just kind of looking at like the effect size, the one study that had more favorable results with exercise training and the green tea was the one where the subjects exercised 3 days a week, had that high dose of the green tea,
Hmm.
1,500 milligrams. So I don't know
Yeah.
if that was in cups of tea or they used extracts and capsules and all that, but that's probably quite a few cups of green tea.
I
And
mean, that's like 15 to 30
I
cups of
know.
green
I
tea.
know. But the exercise intervention was anaerobic type focus with, it says intensity 90% of heart rate max
Yeah.
versus a couple of other exercise interventions that were more aerobic focused, excuse
Hmm.
me, and the lower green tea, like the effect was there a teeny tiny bit, but not quite that level of change. So
Yeah,
just
it's
something to
amazing.
note.
No, and I think that's super important because a lot of these, and I'm looking at the same data you're looking at, a lot of the exercise types are aerobic, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
I mean, it's at least more than I would say 60% of the studies that were included, right?
Yeah.
Just going and I love the first thing that I started to note, probably where your eyes went too, is where were the intervals, where was the anaerobic nature of training? And fascinating enough, again, to your point, that's where more of the benefits were seen. So it's
Mhm.
not to say that everyone needs to train anaerobic, but it is to say that, listen, we need high intensity exercise in a weight loss model. We absolutely do, right? And
Yeah.
and that's a great point you picked on because I think that's something to kind of take with us and to keep in mind.
So overall, Bob, I'd say, yeah, that back to that like green tea with exercise intervention at the right dose.
Kind of sort of figure out
Might
what that is.
it might have a minimal benefit there when we're trying to lose weight or lose fat
Yeah,
if we are in this overweight obese category. But again, like not magic bullet and probably have to be consistent in that green tea. You
yeah, for
cannot
sure.
opt out and just do it once a week, just like all of the other things we talk about
Yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
exercise and healthy eating behaviors and so on.
Yeah. Okay, here are my conclusions. You ready? We've got yours,
Yes.
right? Okay, here are
Yes,
mine.
let me take a sip of my green tea though, real
Okay.
quick. Uh-huh.
So real quick, if anyone has consumed green tea as a hot beverage or as a cold beverage, it has an interesting taste, right? I find a lot of people need to add stuff to green tea to
Mm,
be able to drink it. So again, like you were saying before, like how many pumps of whatever you put in, or you're doing
yeah.
some milk, you're doing some creamer, you have to keep that in mind because again, that's adding extra what? Extra energy, extra calories. Okay.
Yes.
So that's not my main conclusion. My main conclusion is this. I see green tea and EGCG as totally beneficial to include in a daily nutrition program, but probably not for weight loss. For all the things that you mentioned, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant effects, fantastic in just aging, longevity, you name it. I feel like we really need to come back to, if we're looking at weight loss and the overweight and obese, we really need to look at creating healthy lifestyle habits. Like, so let's get on an exercise program that includes aerobic and anaerobic. And more importantly, most importantly, is probably really adopting a metabolically efficient nutrition plan. Like let's use food to balance and optimize blood sugar so, your body can kind of work towards that weight loss. So again, it kind of comes around to what you were saying. EGCG green tea is not the end all, but it can be part of a quote unquote healthy aging, program, if you will. But I just don't see it as, this is my bottom line. I just don't see it as a phenomenal weight loss tool.
Okay, I will agree with what you just said. I'm trying to think of something else to add, like a little enhancement, but
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I guess my other layperson interpretation would be including a beverage like green tea and, being mindful of what else you're adding in. Is this replacing something else or actually adding more calories to your day? You just have to put everything in context. But overall, I'd say a nice option to include if you tire of water and you want to benefit from some of those other properties. But yeah, in the weight loss context, not that magic bullet.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So
Totally agree.
sounds good, Bob. Anything else?
No, I think thank you for dissecting that article for us. I think that's super helpful. And I think it helps and listeners, if you want us to do more of these, just let us know. But we love looking at articles like this and breaking them down because it is research and sometimes it's a little hard and a little dry to read, but we do like bringing it into real life. And that's the whole reason why we're doing this podcast, to be honest with you, is to bring all of this stuff to real life and show you different ways of using it to enhance your health, your longevity, your athletic performance, your fitness. So yeah, I would just leave by saying, let us know if there are more topics you'd like to hear about when it comes to that. But thanks, Dee, for the in-depth analysis today.
All right, Bob. Well, I'm glad to have had this discussion, and I will finish up my little matcha tea here as we wrap up.
Sounds great. All right, listeners, as always, thank you for listening. And hey, listeners, be sure to head on over to our Patreon account where you can sign up to receive free things, free stuff from Dina and I, but also you can help support our podcast because, as you know, or as you may not know, we do not provide or accept sponsorships from anyone. So anything you can help us along the way for providing our weekly podcast episodes would be greatly appreciated. And you do get some bonus material and some bonus things on the side. So thanks for supporting us. We'll see you on the next episode.